Today I'm going to be talking about slot machines. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason Barnett. I'm a math instructor here. Started here in the fall. Before I came here to beautiful Wyoming, I worked in Las Vegas for about a year and a half for a slot machine manufacturer as a mathematician. So my job was designing slot machines, designing the odds, designing the payouts, designing the game rules, and all sorts of stuff. So I have a lot of, I think, inside the industry knowledge on how it works. And it's interesting because I think a lot of the things about slot machines are not rigged in the way that you might think they're rigged. But manufacturers can do a lot of things to make them appear different than what they are. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. But before I do so, I do want to talk about, just kind of show some examples. Yes, I trust my link. I want to show some examples of slots. So a lot of people, when they think about slot machines, they might think about something like this. With, you got 3 reels. If you get, 777 or something, you're in for a good time. You can see right here, we have one line across the center. If you get a combination on the line, you get some wins, all right? Slot machines nowadays have become way more complicated, all right? The first time I played a modern slot machine preparing for my job, I actually had no idea what was going on. I had no idea. This is kind of where I was at when I started. But here's a game to do some comparing and contrasting, a game that came out very recently, a game that I actually created with a coworker of mine at while I was working for Konami. All right. So in this game, you can see right here, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. There are 30 lines. And for those of you who are maybe not as good at geometry as you might like to be, you might say, wait a minute, there's no way to draw 30 lines through those symbols. Well, lines, we use that term in the slot industry very, very loosely. So what's going to happen is we're going to get a spin over here, and we didn't win anything. So let's skip ahead a little bit. We won some free games. That's always nice. And let's see what's going on. Okay, so a ton of things are going on right here that, again, are not easy to see unless you play a lot of slot machines. So again, first off, you can maybe see these yellow borders and these gray borders up here. So one of the lines that we won on right here, we got green woman, green woman, green woman, and then nothing, nothing. We got 3 in a row. The line is just like a V. Not actually a line, but somehow I don't think it'd be very attractive if we advertise this as, you got 3 lines and an absolute value sign and something else like that. So again, slot machines are more complicated. And in this game, you might notice that we got some multipliers over here. They're going to multiply all of our wins. And we got a golden multiplier. And the golden multiplier is actually going to fly to the top of the screen, if I can press play. And we'll use that later. So again, slot machines nowadays are way more complicated than slots used to be. So that's just kind of a little introduction to slot machines. So one of the big questions, there are 2 main questions that I get when I'm asked, or when people find out that I used to work and make slot machines. One of the questions is, how do I win? And we'll get to that later. The standard answer I give people is that you can't really, there's no guarantee of a way, but there sort of is that we'll get into later. There's not a legal way. Save that for the end. But the other question I get is, are slot machines rigged? And the answer, of course, is yes and no. So there's a lot of misconceptions about how slot machines work, but there's a lot of also very, I don't want to say sinister maybe, but interesting, creative ways that slot machines, that manufacturers, the people who make slot machines, may make them look more attractive than they actually are. Okay, so a couple things like people believe in hot and cold machines. A lot of people, that's not really the case. See these people having a really good time, definitely not a promotional photo for a casino. They're having a great old time. You might think, man, I should have been on that machine. I'm not winning anything here. And this one is actually sort of it's like one of those things where it's myth rooted in fact, because it is possible for different machines to have different returns. Thing is that casino operators have no reason to make them different returns, because you can't actually tell the difference between a machine that's going to return 85% of what's in and a machine that's going to return like 88% or something. More on that later. But yeah, if you're having a bad time, if you're having a good time, you're just getting lucky or unlucky. That's kind of all there is to it. So, you know, don't read into that too much. Gambler's fallacy, again, it's called gambler's fallacy for a reason. It's another thing. If you're losing a lot, it doesn't mean the slot machine is due to pay out. With only very minor, and they have to make it obvious, exceptions, every single spin is going to be completely independent of everything that happened before. So if you lose a bunch of times, you're just as likely to lose on the next spin too. So don't go too far. And I think one of the things about this, and again, this talk has a chance of sounding very negative towards the slot machine industry. I don't have any problem with the industry in and of itself, but it's very important that you do it in a healthy manner. So one of the biggest things is to set your limits for winning and losing. If you want to go in, say, you know, I got 20 bucks or something, I'm going to go into a casino, I'm going to have a good time. If I lose it all, I'm out 20 bucks, had a good time, no problem. If I win something, hey, that's great. You know, so there are healthy ways to gamble, but it's very, very tempting. And again, manufacturers and casinos do everything that they can to make you gamble in an unhealthy manner, okay? Because they exist for profit. They're not charity casinos or anything. So it's very, very important. And one of the purposes of this talk, first off, I think is really cool. Second off, I want you to be informed so that you can be a responsible if you're going to gamble, be a responsible gambler. Be informed, okay? So, again, another thing, big winners are actually real. People who win big, they do happen. Slot machines don't just take money. They do pay out money sometimes. It's just that they pay out less than they take in, which is how they get that profit. You know, I promise you that people do win. You do get taxed if you win enough. If you get more than like $1,200 in most jurisdictions, then you do have to fill out a W-2G. But other than that, it's not too much of a thing. All right, and then the last thing before I want to get into the really good stuff, the last common misconception is that if you're going to lose, the game doesn't sort of purposely show you a specific losing screen. So this is where things start getting really interesting. So it's all about the logic. The game can't say, okay, you lose, I'm going to show you this beautiful screen. But a very experienced and good designer can make it so that you might get a loss with a really, really good screen. Okay? And in fact, that is one of the skills that is looked for in someone who had my previous job. Okay? So legally, basically all of the thing about how slot machines work is all about, hey, there's a ton of regulations. We're going to follow all the regulations. We're just going to follow them in a way that makes things look the best. And so now we're going to get into the things where slot machines sort of are rigged in a sense. And again, it's just kind of an understanding thing. Most important thing to understand is that all slots have odds that favor the house. Okay? Just like, you know, anything in a casino, the house is going to win. In fact, slots are kind of the biggest culprit of this. But in general, there's something called a hold percentage or return to player, return percent. A lot of different ways to talk about this quantity. But on average, right, a slot is going to take in more than it's going to pay out. And all different slot machines, no matter whether you're playing, you know, the Game of Thrones slot machine or whether you're playing the Wheel of Fortune slot machine, they're all going to pay out roughly the same amount. All right. So now, what differentiates a game is how it pays out. And we'll get to that later. The Payouts Schedule is actually one of the other main things that slot machine manufacturers can manipulate to make you think that this machine is better than that machine. Or like, If you're having a bad day at one game, well, that game just sucks. Let's go to this game. No, the games are going to pay out the same quantities, just on different again, saying schedules is slightly misleading because each spin is random, but different distributions of wins and odds and stuff like that. All right. And specifically, what's interesting is that since everything is random, the casino can lose in the short term. They will always kind of win in the long term. What I have right here, and a little bit of the math nerd in me coming out, is a graph of a bunch of different samples of an asymmetric random walk, which can actually be used to sort of visualize roughly what's going on. If you want, think about all of these black lines up here as how much money the casino has. So sometimes the slots may pay out and get lucky for the player, which means the casino might lose money. That might be this machine over here. But eventually, things average out and the casino will be making money in the long term. Similarly, you can think about the red as the player. Now, there might be some player who has a really bad luck. There might be some player with good luck. But eventually, they all lose in the end. All right? And so usually the return to player is about 85 to 90%. That's including really giant jackpots, and that's including really tiny wins. We'll get to it again in the next slide on how wins are usually distributed. But it's interesting that so one of the really fascinating things about the industry is how many regulations there are. There are a bunch of different jurisdictions. Pretty much every state has different laws regarding gambling and what the game has to be. So specifically, at one time, I made a game at Konami, and I get a message a couple months later from our quality assurance department saying, "Hey, this game, fails this regulation, and you have to change it." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I look up the regulation on my computer, and it turns out that our IT policy was so strict I could not even access the regulation I was breaking, which was a bit amusing to me at the time. But yeah, there are a ton of different regulations, and the people designing them need to be aware of it, because you want one game that you can send anywhere. Because if you design a game, right, that's so much cost put into it, you want to be able to sell it to as many people as possible. All right, so again, a little bit more about how slot machines work before we really get into some of the tricks that manufacturers use. This is an example of a very standard way that slot games can pay out. So most modern slot machines will have a hit percent of about 40%. Again, that's with a lot of lines. In those older slot machines, right, that older slot machine with one line, that hit percent is going to be much lower, in the single digits. But when you got 30 lines or something like that newer game, you're going to be hitting very, very often, or relatively often. So here's an example. About 60% of the time, you don't win anything. This is a very common histogram. And then most of your wins, most of the time when you win a modern slot machine, you actually win less than it cost you to press the spin. And so there's a couple reasons for that. One reason is that there's a little jingle, not a big jingle because that would get obnoxious pretty quickly. There's a little jingle that gives you that positive reinforcement that, oh, I got something. Maybe next time I can get more. And also, I don't remember where I was going with that, but it's very cheap. Okay. Again, designing a slot machine is an interesting problem because you don't control how much the machine pays out. The machine, this game is a 90% RTP game. Every game that a manufacturer makes, we're going to have multiple different RTPs, returns to player. And you can't just, I can make the most fun slot machine ever. Just have it, every time you press a spin, you win $1 million. People would play the heck out of that game. Unfortunately, first off, it breaks regulations, and we wouldn't be able to sell it. Second off, even if the manufacturer could sell it, no casino would buy it because they would just lose a bunch of money. So from a manufacturer side, you have to make something as addicting and enjoyable to play as possible. while still only being able to pay out this much. So these little wins right here are an easy way to get some wins without being too expensive and paying out too much. And believe it or not, on this histogram, there are values here, but just like a real slot machine, they're so small you can't even see them. Most of the wins are in this region. And then the chances of getting wins, again, these are all scaled off of your bet. So here's the chance that you'll get between 0 and your bet. And up here is getting 100 times your bet. If you get 100 times your bet or more on a slot machine, that's a good day. That's a pretty good spin. And that's kind of one of the main metrics. And again, when manufacturers create slot machines, they look at these charts. So yeah, this is how this chart is balanced is also a very important thing about like the differences between each game. So again, kind of, no, I won't talk about calculus right now. But yeah, how this chart is balanced is what differentiates the game, because the average payout will be the same or roughly the same in a bunch of different games. All right, so let's talk about some of the stuff that manufacturers can do that you might not expect, and that frankly were a little surprising to me when I found out as well. So symbols can be weighted. We're going to look at a fairly recent and fairly popular game by Psy Games after this brief advertisement called The Simpsons. All right, so it is a game completely skinned with Simpsons stuff, and I absolutely hate this game. Okay, so there's a couple reasons I hate this game. First off, while you're playing it, this guy never shuts up. He just keeps on saying stuff to you. If you pull up the rules to see how the game works, he says, why are you reading the rules? Get back and play, or something like that. And when you leave, he says something, I have to play this game on mute. When I had to play it a little bit for research purposes at my last job. Anyway, so I have this paused at a very convenient time. So you're spinning this game, and you see, oh my goodness, look at all of those orange symbols. If that lands, I'm gonna win big, and you would. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. So let's see what happens. Oh, we got a bunch right here, a bunch right here. Nothing on the middle. That's a very common trick, right? When I design reels for a slot machine game, I don't need to have the same number of symbols on every reel. And in fact, I don't want to. I want a bunch of symbols on every reel except for 1 or 2. So that you see, oh, I was so close to winning huge. But in reality, there's probably not very many on here. So you're probably not going to win. It feels like you're close. You really weren't. All right, and that right there is probably the most I've ever seen this game land. Let's go to the next spin. Oh my goodness, look at all those Coke cans or whatever they are. I don't actually watch The Simpsons, so I don't know. But look at all those cans. If all those land, we're going to win big. There's literally 2 of them that landed. In this game, that symbol, different companies have different names for it. Every spin, 1 symbol is chosen. And it gets a whole bunch of spots. But in this game, that symbol is weighted. It will very, very rarely land. Let's look at some more spins. Because this game is a really big abuser of this. Look at all those green things. Again, a fair amount of them landed. We got 2/3 of our bet. We lost money on that spin. Look at all the blue guys. They're not going to land. Literally not one landed. Blue is the highest paying symbol in this game. Look at all the blue guys again. Literally 1. Okay? So, not all slot machine companies do this. And in fact, company I worked on, we had a discussion about it, and it was decided not to weight these symbols in this manner. But a lot of companies will do weighted symbols in this fashion, where every single spin feels really exciting. Look at all those fish. They don't land. Or they just won't be on the third reel. And something very, very, very common that you need to be aware of when you're playing a slot machine. Again, play it for fun. If you realize that they're probably not going to land, and there's other stuff that you want to go for, and there's other stuff that you want to look at, that's great. Have fun. But be informed that happens. All right, and then we got this other feature, and this guy's going to go around on a train, monorail, and we're going to get some money. But weighted symbols are a very big thing in certain slot machines. And you can tell. It's not done subtly. If you don't notice that sort of phenomenon, it's probably not weighted. But in specific games, especially this was done by the company Psy Games. They like to do it a lot in their 5x5 independent reel ones. They have a Willy Wonka game that does it real bad too. So another thing that happens all the time is wheels that are weighted. So this is a screenshot taken from a Wheel of Fortune game. And you see, oh my goodness, look, I've got the same chance of getting 5,000 credits as I do 100 credits. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you don't. If you actually did the size of this wheel, if you actually made this wheel the right sizes, it would look comical. I'd say there's probably like, to my knowledge, I'd say that there's about a 50% chance that you get something 300 or smaller. And that's very generous. You're probably not winning anything on this wheel. And this is very, very common. Weighted wheels are huge in the slot machine industry. All right? And I think that's something that a lot of people know kind of intuitively, that wheels can be weighted. So the next thing I want to talk about, and I don't have a picture or a video, but it's something that's done all the time, is one thing that's done when developing a slot machine is really going for this goal of creating a near miss. Just like on that Simpsons game. You know, we had all those things spin by and they didn't land. Or sometimes we had all the symbols go by and they did land, just not on the third reel. The third reel is the big one because most slot machines pay out for 3, 4, and 5 of a kind. That's the common one. Some slot machines will have some 2 of a kind pays. They're usually not very good. So there's a couple ways of achieving this. The weighted symbols, tons of stuff except for on reel 3. Sometimes you might have different reels on every spin. Like you have a 1% chance to get a really, really good spin. And you see it and you think, oh, these reels are awesome. Well, you might not get those reels every spin. And then there's a lot of psychological manipulation done as well. So this is actually one of the most popular games that was done fairly recently. This is actually the sequel to it. I believe I put in the sequel, not the original. It's called Golden Egypt by IGT. And the way this game works is, you see those coins? There are coins above the reels, and the coins are wild. So every time a wild symbol lands, it pops up here. And if you ever fill the reel, or if you ever fill the stack, what happens is that reel becomes wild for the next 2 spins. This is an example of one of those rare exceptions where each spin is not independent. And it's called a persistent game. But everything here is independent. The only thing is that these stay here. So what happens is that you get a wild, and you feel, oh, I didn't win anything. But I have a wild up there now. And then you play, and what happens if you use all your 20 bucks and almost the whole thing is filled up there? You're probably going to put in 20 more. And what happens is wilds in this game pay huge. So what happens, right, is say we have almost the whole thing filled up here. And you think, wow, if I got all of them filled at the same time, I'd win big. And you really, really would. But what's actually going to happen is that if all of them are almost filled, this one will get filled for 2 spins and then go away. Maybe a little while, this one will. They almost never happen in pairs. So it's that psychological, this game is not lying to you. It's very clear about what it's doing. You collect the coins, and they can maybe pay you back later. But it's a psychological manipulation as well as you feeling like you can't walk away. Let's watch some gameplay while I talk a little bit more about this. Okay? So the wilds, we should get one. They're fairly common. So we got the third wild, which means in the next 2 spins, we get wilds there. That's really nice. Oh, we got one up here. Maybe we're going to get some more wilds. This is a nice screen. Maybe might get something good. Oh, if we get 3 bonus symbols, we enter into the bonus game. Ah, unlucky. All right. And then, ooh, this is actually really nice. Look, we filled up this one. Ah, this one's gone. So a lot of times you'll get one at a time. You'll always feel like you're so close to getting something because we're getting so many coins and we're getting so many wild spins. And actually, this is one of the, oh, this was a bad screen for a while, but we just got 2 more coins. We can't walk away now. All right? This game is really popular and is making a lot of money for the casinos and the manufacturers, not for the players. Let's be very clear about that. All right, look how many coins we're getting. We're getting so many, but they're not making any money. They're only at $8.45 left. They're spending 75 cents a spin. But they can't walk away because look how close they are. Look how many coins are out there. The coins land pretty quickly. Okay? And so this is an example of, I think, it's hard for me not to respect the genius, I think, that was put into this game. But again, it's very devious. Slot manufacturers, again, the job I used to have is they have to be devious. There's never a good time to walk away from this game. I mean, it's always a good time to walk away. But there's never a good time that feels like a good time to walk away from this one. Some other tricks. Let's look at, again, one of the most popular, probably, if I had to say the most popular game in the last 10 years, the most popular slot machine game in the last 10 years would be this, Lightning Link. So what happens is, as you're playing the normal game, these circles will pop by. Here we're betting $2.50 a spin. Most of these games are 1 cent denomination, which means each one of these numbers represents a number in cents. So 250 credits is $2.50. It's very common for modern video slots, unless you go into a different section. But this is the most common. This is the big money maker right now of the slot industry, which is actually kind of dying, I believe. But that's a different topic. All right, so what happens is if you get at least 6 of these guys to land, you enter into the feature. And the feature, you get 3 spins, and every time you get an additional one of these guys that land, your spins are reset to 3. Called the hold and spin feature. So we're going to spin. And look how many there are. Wow, we just got 2 in that one spin. Our spins refresh to 3. If we fill this whole screen, we get the grand jackpot, which is, I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000 or something like that, betting $2.50 a spin. So it's big money. I think it'll show you later on. If we fill the screen, we just got 2. That's exciting. We just have to get 3 more times, or 2.5 more times. And we'll be good to go. Let's keep spinning here. Oh man, look at how many there are. Oh, so close. There's a couple in there. Oh, okay, good. We got another one. Reset to 3. All right, let's keep spinning. Keep spinning. Oh, only one spin left. Oh, we got another one. That's good. That's good. 3 more. If we get 3 more, we get thousands and thousands of dollars. Oh man, got another little bonus. And I want to point out, look at this space right here. There are a couple spinning by right here. Look at this space. Top middle. The next spin. Oh no, I had it backwards. Look at this space. literally none went by. There are almost no symbols in here. So when you play this game, it's very common to get 14 spaces filled up and think, if I just got one more, I would have gotten thousands and thousands of dollars. But you're not going to. The bigger the jackpot, the less likely it is to hit. That's just the math right there. If they can advertise a $5,000 or $10,000 jackpot, they're advertising to you that you're never going to hit it. I mean, it will. Mathematically, it will get hit. And somebody will hit it. Probably not you. So I want to go up to the top. That one's at $11,252 if you get 15 spins, or 15 things filled up. And that is the most popular game right now. There are variations on it now because, similar to movies like Hollywood, if a game does well, every other company and the same company says, hey, let's copy that 10 times. And that's very, very common. Games are copied all the time in the slot industry. Sometimes they take the same exact game, just put different pictures on it. Sometimes separate companies take the same exact game, and just put different pictures on it. There are companies that will try to reverse engineer other people's games. Things get stolen a lot in the slot industry. Another trick is done twice in this game, which arguably is a runner-up to the most popular game right now. It's called 88 Fortunes by Psy Games. And what happens here is that every time a wild lands, little coins and butterflies or something go up to that pot up there. And it's really exciting because when you win a jackpot, the pot goes empty. And every time a wild lands, it fills up. Think, oh, it's filling up. Look how full it is right now. We're really close to a jackpot. No, you are not. Your chance of getting the jackpot is the same every single spin, no matter how full that is. Okay? And that one this is the one that I think looks almost the most like a blatant lie. But they're never saying that when it fills up, you'll get a jackpot. They just see it fill up. They go, oh, we're getting close. There's this other one that's even worse. It's a stream of firecrackers. And there are a finite number of them. There's only 15. So if you get 14 firecrackers lit, you're getting really excited. I just need to light up one more. No. Every single spin's the same exact chance as the other spins. They just want you to think that you're getting close. So a lot of devious things that they can do. And this one's also really funny because it has a bonus game. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. So here's a little bonus game. There are 4 jackpots, a very common number. And all you have to do is match 3 of the symbol to get that jackpot. So let's look at this. Hey, I don't care about that. Look at this. Okay, so that one, there's the green one. Green one's bad. Green one is like, this person is betting $8.80. I think the green one is $10. Barely more than their bet for a jackpot. All right? And then you get this one over here. Oh, this one's good. This one's pretty good right here. This guy's picking pretty fast. He knows what's going on. 2 more of these. Oh, wait, this pink one actually is really good. This one's hundreds of dollars. All we need is to match 3 of them. This one here is thousands of dollars. Oh my goodness, we are 1/3 of the way there. All right, we matched the $20 one. Okay. This is what's called an unfair pick game. And what happens is the math looks something like this. Say we'll look at the grand is that $5,000 jackpot, and the mini is the $10 jackpot. And what happens is every time you press one of those buttons, it pulls from a weighted table. So here, there's about an equal chance of getting a grand and a mini. But if you get a grand and then the second grand, the chances of you getting the 3rd grand, it's not going to happen. So people will get excited thinking, oh, I got 2 grands. I just need 1 more. But you're never going to get the third one. Again, never being an exaggeration. It's possible. It's probably not going to happen. All right, so one final thing I want to talk about is a little, or actually I'm going to skip that real quick because I do want to make sure to have time for questions and for people to go to their classes, including myself. I want to talk about a recent thing that happened. Is people ask, how do you game a slot machine? And people have done it, and they have gone to prison. Okay? There was this very big story in 2014. There's a Russian group. They still exist today. They are in St. Petersburg. And what they do is essentially, in I believe it was 2009, slot machines were basically outlawed. So all of the casinos were trying to sell the machines. And so what happened is, even though in the United States it is very, very not legal to privately own a slot machine. I don't know exactly how individuals got slot machines, but they did. So a bunch of individuals got slot machines, and what they did is they broke apart the slot machines, picked them apart, figured them out, specifically figured out the pseudo-random number generator, PRNG. And so essentially how slot machines work, this is getting a bit into the technical aspect of it, is pure randomness cannot be generated by, we cannot design, humans cannot design something that gives a purely random number. So what happens is when we need to get a random number, specifically I'm going to speak in the slot industry, there's a bunch of different rules and stuff that make the number seemingly be random. And there are a bunch of regulations and tests to make sure that it's random enough. And a lot of times it'll do some crazy formula on like the time of day, on the month, the year, the time's a big one, and a bunch of other variables that when it's all put together will be random enough. And what they did is they reverse engineered that pseudo-random number generator and then recorded on the phones of the actual gameplay to find the seed, which is where the random number generator starts. Once they found those things, they could reverse engineer the exact time you need to press the spin button to win. So what they were doing is recording things, and then they sent the footage back to St. Petersburg, and then they sent them back exactly when it press the spins, and they would clean out casinos. And this is a group of people. And eventually, casinos were realizing common denominators. Hey, we're losing a bunch on these specific machines, because different machines have different pseudo-random number generators. We're losing a bunch on these different machines. They talk to each other. They talk to the manufacturers. The manufacturers say, these machines are working correctly. And eventually they figured it out. And with a plea bargain, I think they got like 3 years in federal prison or something like that. So yeah. It's like conspiracy. It's like something related to fraud was the actual charge. I don't quite remember. So when people ask me, how do you win at slot machines? The best answer is to not play them. If you want to play them and have fun, absolutely go for it. Have a good time. But know that the odds are against you. Just like everything in a casino. You can still have fun playing blackjack knowing the house has better odds. You can have fun playing roulette. It's all good. Just know that the odds are against you. And a couple of people found ways to beat the odds, I guess. And it's very illegal. Do not do that. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about before we get into some questions, because again, I think there's quite a lot of good questions about this sort of stuff, is I want to talk a bit about how slot machines are made. So essentially, my job was the first column. We decide, hey, let's have a game where if a wild lands, you get coins that go up, and the coins get wilds. Hey, that's a great game. And then you design the reels. You design the payouts. How much does 3 of a kind aces pay out? Stuff like that. and then you have to make sure it conforms with regulations. Then we programmed little demos. So we had an actual software team that would program the games, but we ourselves would just program in C# a little video demo. So we'd play it and say, is this fun? Is it addicting? Is it, are people going to play it? Sort of a thing. And then we just iterate over and over and over and over again until we got something that we're proud of. And then once that happens, then you worry about art, because no need to waste art's time if you're not even going to make the game in the first place. You have to make sure you have something good. And you art, software implementation, testing, put it on a cabinet, quality assurance, send it to the regulators, market it to the casinos, sell it to the casinos. All right, it's kind of the life, how a slot machine comes to be. Questions? Yes?
How come you switched?
How come I switched? Oh, there's a lot of different reasons. One of the reasons, and again, I don't mean this to sound disparaging to any of my former colleagues. They're all great people. It sounds kind of cliche, but essentially my job was to make as much money as possible for rich people, and by usually taking it from the people who can't afford it. Unfortunately, the sad reality is that most of the people who play slot machines are people who can't afford to, and they lose their money on hopes of striking it rich. And that's kind of sad to be contributing to that. Again, nothing against my coworkers. But now, as a teacher, right, what is my job? My job is to educate people. My job is to improve the lives of people. And it's a lot easier to go home at the end of the day knowing that. There are other selfish reasons as well. I like having summers off. That's nice. I've always liked teaching. In fact, I planned to teach outside getting out of grad school, but I saw this job and I was like, this looks too good to pass up. It's kind of easier to go back to teaching than it is to leave teaching and join an industry when you're older, I think. So that's what I did. Other questions? Yeah.
So we have the downs here, and they're supposed to be like based on the horse races.
Horse races?
How does that work?
I don't know a lot about horse races, to be honest.
That's just their way of making it legal. I'm not quite sure how it all works either, but like I know that there's some sort of stipulation that because in Wyoming it's only legal to gamble on the a reservation, right? So here to have it in Rock Springs, I don't know.
They use the legal part to make this part legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, as I understand it, the whole idea for those horse racing things is kind of the mainstream of how gambling and stuff is devised in the first place, is making something that you want into some legal box, making it work.
People are fine with it, I think they're gonna close the stuff.
Didn't hear that.
Other questions? Yes?
Do you like to play cards?
Do I like to play cards? No, I do not. I'm a video game kind of guy. I actually hated slot machines too. I played my first slot machine a couple days before my interview. Figured I should at least know something about what I was interviewing for. Well, I don't enjoy them. Other questions? Yes?
Why is it illegal for an individual to own a slot machine?
Why is it illegal for an individual to own a slot machine? I don't know the answer, but I can only guess that it's actually for reasons exactly like I mentioned, is that once you have access to it, you can essentially obtain all of this private information on how they work so that they can be exploited. Is a guess. I don't know for sure. Also, going back to the question of why I left, it was actually a really, really fun job. It's such a fascinating industry, and it was very challenging because essentially a lot of math that we're exposed to in school is here's a math problem, solve it. But essentially what that job was is I have to design my own math problem. I'm designing something that's fun for people, and then I have to solve it. Because you have to make a game that pays out right, and it has to be fun for people. So I'm doing both parts. And so that's kind of fun, like, hey, this would be really, really cool. Wait, that is actually, I have no idea how I do the math for that. So I guess we'll have to adjust it this way. What I did is I would essentially make games more and more complicated behind the scenes while being fairly straightforward in front of the scenes. So most of my job was just spent doing really cool math problems, which I love because I like math and all, but the biggest thing I like about math is the problem solving. It's kind of like puzzles and stuff like that. So it was very intellectually stimulating of a job. I also didn't like sitting down in front of a computer for 40 hours a week. When my hobby, as I said before, is video games, which is sitting down in front of a screen. I think it's important not to mix hobbies and your work too much. Whereas now I actually get to walk around and talk. And then when I'm home and I sit down and want to play a game, it's nice and relaxing. Good balance. Other questions? Okay then, thank you for your time and your attention.